Word, Brother Chuck, goes right along with my sermon this evening. It is amazing how the Holy Spirit can work those things out. Amen. Well, turn in your Bibles to the Gospel of John, chapter 7, 8, and 9. We're going to tackle the whole thing. Hope you had a good lunch. Amen. We're on to sign number 6 of John's 7 signs tonight. And the sign actually happens in chapter 9, but 7, 8, and 9 are all the same day. And so they run into each other. And I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. I can almost read your mind here. I know what you're thinking. Oh, Pastor Jim, won't you please take the next 6 or 8 months and just take us through exegetically, verse by verse, through all 3 chapters. Hearing no amens, we will just do the whole thing tonight. Then, not hearing a first nor a second or a bunch of amens, we will tackle the sign itself. But I will give you a little background on what leads up to it. So come on, stand with me for the reading of God's Word. We're going to actually start at the last part of chapter 8, verse number 58. Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was born, I am." Therefore they picked up stones to throw at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple. As he passed by, he saw a blind man from birth. And his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he would be born blind?" Jesus answered, "It was neither this man sinned nor his parents, but it was so that the works of God might be displayed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me as long as it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I'm in the world, I am the light of the world." And when he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay of the spittle and applied the clay to his eyes and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which is translated sent. So he went away and washed and came back seeing. Therefore the neighbors and those who previously saw him as a beggar were saying, "Is this not the one who used to sit and beg?" And others were saying, "This is he." Still others were saying, "No, but he looks like him." He kept saying, "I am the one. I am the one." Father, thank you for your word this evening. We love your word. We bow to its authority. And we pause this evening to hear a word from you, not from me, but from the Spirit of God who's going to take this word and apply it to each one of our hearts in exactly the way that we need. And we believe you for that tonight. We need that. Each one of us can stand and say, "I am the one." Every one of us came to a point in our life where we were blind, and you came, and we saw. And we can stand and say, "I am the one." Would you help us this evening to hear your word in a way that doesn't just move us, but it changes us? And we'll thank you for it in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. God bless you. You can be seated this evening. As I said, this story starts actually in chapter 7. It is 6 months after Pentecost. The last sign, in sign number 5, if you remember, 4 and 5, we were at Pentecost. And so this is 6 months later after chapter 6. And he's up in Capernaum and where he's stationed at. And then Tabernacles rolls around. The 6 months later is the Feast of Tabernacles. It runs in September, October time frame, and his brothers are there, and his brothers are egging him on. They don't believe that he is the Messiah at all, and so they say, why don't you go up to the feast there and do your thing? Nobody who has disciples wants to do their thing in private. Why don't you go up there? And Jesus doesn't take the bait, and he says, no, why don't you guys go up without me? Because he knows the hostility that was 6 months ago that he just went through at Passover there. You remember we talked about that. And it's the beginning of the end. His disciples are falling away at that point when he said, you got to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And his disciples began falling away, and there are not many following him anymore. And this is a year of just the popularity decline as it was. And he still got the 12, but the crowds weren't where they were once in his ministry. And so he's going to go up, but he's going to go up incognito. He's going to go up secretly. And so he goes up secretly there. And in the middle of the feast, then chapter 7 is kind of broke down into a couple of parts. It's at the beginning, just before the feast, where he's told to go up there. And then in the midst of the feast, he goes up there and he actually begins teaching in the synagogues then. Verse number 14, now it was the midst of the feast, and Jesus went up to the temple and began to teach. So we're in the middle of this 7-day feast. Now something you got to remember about tabernacles, very important, is the climate that they're in with tabernacles, all right? So tabernacles is in September, October, 6 months after Passover, and Israel is in a time of drought at this time of the year. Everything is dry. If you have a cistern, the cistern is running low, all right? If you don't have a spring, if you don't have a natural spring, your cisterns by this point are running low. You need rain. You need water, all right? And water in that climate is life itself. All right? You are not going to survive if you can't find water. And so Jesus comes up to this feast, and in this Feast of Tabernacles, there's two ceremonies that are of primary importance. One is the water ceremony, and one is the light ceremony. The water ceremony goes like this. For 7 days, they make a procession down to the Pool of Siloam. It used to be the Gihon Spring, which was right outside in the Kidron Valley, but King Hezekiah in his day had rerouted the spring into the city itself, and it went into a Pool of Siloam. By the time Jesus comes along in this generation, the Gihon spring has been covered over and forgotten about. They all go to the Pool of Siloam at this point. So they make this procession down the hill to the Pool of Siloam. The priests are going down there. The choir is going down there. It's a big deal, and they're all in their robes, and they go down, and the priest has a large golden pitcher, and they go down to the spring, and they dip water out of the spring waters of the Pool of Siloam, which fed from the Gihon spring there, and he pulls up this big pitcher of water while the choir is chanting a verse from Isaiah, with joy you'll draw waters from the pools of salvation, out of Isaiah. They start making their way back up to Jerusalem then, while they're singing psalms, the Hallel songs from 113 to 118. They're singing these psalms on the way back up to Jerusalem. They come to the temple, into the temple courts. They come to the altar. The priest pours the water out on the altar. You see the symbolism. We need water or we die. We need water or we die. And you're the only one who can give it to us. While they're singing, and they do this once a day for 6 days, on the 7th day, they do the same procession 7 times. It's the last day. It's the great day of the feast. And on the great day of the feast, John tells us in chapter 7 on verse 37, it says, now on the last day, the great day of the feast, Jesus stood, and he's at the temple where all this is going on. And he stands and he cries out, This is a loud cry. Everything in me cries out to these people that need water, that are in a drought in their life. If anyone's thirsty, let them come to me. Let them come to me and drink. He who believes in me, as the scripture says, from his innermost being will flow rivers of living water. All of these people that are in a time of drought in their life, everything dried up and the cisterns are low. And it causes division as the result with the religious leaders. Of course, over who Jesus was and what he's talking about and who's he revealing himself to be. And it goes right in then to chapter 8. In chapter 8, you have this scene of the adulterous woman, and then you have Jesus making his second proclamation, his second I am statement. Second I am statement, remember the first I am statement, the first of 7 is I am the bread of heaven. I am the bread of heaven, right? I'm the treasury of heaven is what he was talking about. And here's the second one. He says, I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world. Why? The light ceremony is going on. The light ceremony, there was these pillars around the courtyard of Jerusalem, these tall pillars. It's wrote about in the Mishnah and the Sukkah, and they have these large pillars up there and bowls up, and inside of these bowls up there, they're filled with oil, and they're so large up there, and all of the candles or the lamps that are up there, there's like 16 lamps, and they're all filled with water, and they're so large that they actually use the used undergarments of the priest for wicks in them. That's the wicking that's used, is the used undergarments of the wicks that are placed up there. Large ones placed with ladders up there, and they light these things. And the writers in the first century tell us that when they light these things at night, all of Jerusalem is lit by these things. That the brightness of them is such magnitude. And here's Jesus saying, I'm water and I'm light. I'm the light of the world. I'm not just the light of the Jews. I'm not just the light of Jerusalem. I'm not just the light of this religion. I'm the light of the world. And anybody who follows me, anyone who follows me will not walk in darkness, but he will have the light of life. In the same way that water brings life, light brings life. You've got to have it. These two consequential, indisputable symbols of life, water and light, you must have them. Again, the result is division in the church, the religious leaders. What are you talking about? What are you saying? Who are you claiming you're to be? And there's this confusion among the religious leaders. Because for all of their scholarly learning, they haven't figured this thing out yet. For all of their memorization and all of their theological training and all of their insight and all of their years spent studying in depth, they just cannot figure this thing out. And Jesus simply boils it down to this. Well, the reason is you don't love God. You're not on his side. I mean, that's Jim Hardesty paraphrase, but that's really what it comes down to, is you don't love God, you love yourself. You're all about your own team. You're about your position. You're about other things, but you're not about the things of God. Otherwise, me healing somebody on the Sabbath wouldn't be such a bothersome thing to you. You would rejoice instead of picking fights with me that I healed somebody on. If you really love God, you'd really love people. But the fact you'd rather see somebody suffer on the Sabbath rather than see him healed really says something about your real spiritual condition. And so the bottom line is, you can't see me, you can't understand me because you're not on my team. I'm one with the Father, and you're not. And it winds up at the end of chapter 8, as we read, with Jesus making this declaration of his eternality. Amen. Saying, your father Abraham, because they're claiming first in chapter 7, they're claiming to be this and that, and then in chapter 8, their father Abraham, and now in chapter 9, they're going to claim Moses as the one that they're following, and they're following everybody but God. Is what it winds up being. We're following Abraham, we're following Moses, but not following God. He says, your father Abraham saw my day and was glad. And boy, did that make him mad. I mean, this is a great day of the feast. It's a Sabbath day. It's a Sabbath day. He's at it again. If this isn't kind of in your face, antagonistic, I'm going to keep doing what I do because this is the works of God. Amen. And so they pick up stones to try to kill him. It seems like the church answer to a lot of things. So we're just going to pick up stones and just kill him. That'll solve it. I mean, it's not like they haven't tried this before. So, and it hasn't worked. Maybe they'll get a better shot this time. But so they try it again, and Jesus just hides himself. He goes through their midst. And I love this about Jesus. As we get into the actual sign here, as he passed by, he's got people behind him wanting to stone him. He passes by and he goes, oh, a blind man. Well, let's just stop here and heal him. Like, I'm not worried about the people behind us searching for us to stone us at all. The disciples are with him and go, hey, who screwed up, this guy or his parents? Who's the big sinners in that family? Can you tell us who's the big loser there? And Jesus said it's not him and it's not his parents, it's so that God's glory can be displayed. For example, let me make some clay. And so really, that's what he does. And so, but he says something really interesting here. We must work the works of him who sent me as long as it's day. Amen. For night is coming when nobody's going to be able to work. And while I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. And when he has said this, after he's calmly walked out, after he has just gotten away from the ones who want to kill him, and he knows it's a Sabbath day, and he knows he's causing a fight, and he knows he's causing division, and he knows he's bringing things to a head, he's never going home to Judea or home to Capernaum. He's never going to go back there again. He's got 6 months to the cross, and he's going to say in this area here. And he sees this blind guy. And you got to understand something about blind people in those days. Blind people aren't like blind people today. There are no C&I dogs. There were no social services. There were no, there were no books in Braille. There were none of the things that they have. There were no drive-up ATMs with Braille on the things, which makes no sense. But they're required to have Braille on the things of a drive-up ATM. Check it out. Next time you go, rub the little things. There's Braille on them. So whatever blind person decides they can drive today, they can go get $20 out to go watch a movie, I guess. I don't know, what else are they going to do? I'm not really sure, but all I know is that blindness in their day isn't like blindness in our days. There's a lot of conveniences now where people can survive and people can thrive. In that day, it was hopelessness wrapped in a condition. There was no prospects of getting married. There was no prospects of getting a job. There were no prospects of doing anything other than living a life of a hopeless beggar. That's all he had, was begging and relying on people's good moods that day, their charity that day. And this man is going to go from a normally bad day to a great day, to a very, very bad day, to a day of salvation, all in one day. It's emotional, spiritual whiplash that this man's going to experience. He starts out the day his normal condition. I'm blind, and I can't do anything. And I'm never going to be able to do anything except water came by. Except light came by. And walked by his way and wasn't too busy to give him a second glance. Wasn't too busy, even when he was being chased himself, wasn't too busy to stop and meet his need. Wasn't too busy to stop and talk to him. Wasn't too busy to bring his disciples along and give them instruction. Wasn't too busy. He wasn't too hurried. How often do we go through life and there's somebody who's in desperate need, but we're too busy? And the pressures of the day and the pressures of the hour get the better of us. Jesus, the water of light and the light of the world, stops by this man and he gives him more than light. He gives him life. Is what he ends up giving him. His life is changed in a moment. In just a moment. Just a few moments that it took Jesus to stoop down and make a little mud and apply it to his eyes. And as quickly as he could get down to the pool of Siloam, that same place where the priest had just been, that same place where the golden pitcher was just dipped in and brought up the water and poured on the altar, not once, not twice, but 7 times today, telling God, we need water, we need water, we need water, we need water. The cisterns are low. Everything is dying. We've got to have water. Here's a man dying, and the water of life comes by and says, you go to the pool, see what you get. You're going to get something entirely different than what that priest pulled out. He pulled out a symbol. You're going to pull out life. 2 different people go into the same pool. Totally different results. One by just rote tradition. One antagonistic to the message of Jesus. One trying to stone the Son of God who's come to give his life for the world. And one in just sheer obedience and desperation. Goes to the same pool. One of them stays blind. And the other one gets life itself. One gets life itself. I love the fact that Jesus tells his disciples, back up in verse 4, we must work the works. Did you notice that as we read that at first? I circled the word we. Because he's including the disciples. He didn't say, go sit over there. I got some work to do that I need to do, and you can't be a part of it. He's inviting them to be a part of this work. He's inviting the disciples. I want you to be a part of this work. We must work the works of him who sent me. We've got to do this. And who are the disciples? Well, it's us, you and me now. Peter's not going to do it anymore. He's dead and gone. James the Lesser, James the Greater, all up in heaven. But there is a church that surrounds the living water and the light of the world, who he still says we must work because you can't do it and I can't do it. But with the water of life enabling the church of God, Jesus is still saying, amen, we must work the works, amen, of him who sent me. Amen, Lord. We must be about this. Yes. And to explain it, he says this, while, to just kind of make the point, drive home to the disciples. He doesn't leave it in any kind of ambiguity at all. He says this, while I'm in the world, I'm the light of the world. Which begs the question, what about when you leave? Who's the light then? Why do you think he brings the disciples along? They're going to carry the light. They're not going to be the light of the world, but they're going to carry that light in their own lives. Everywhere they go, with every congregation that they start, with every person that they lead to Christ, the disciples are going to carry that light onward in themselves. They're going to be the ones bringing the light. They are not going to be the light, but they're going to bring the light. They're going to carry the light. And they're going to carry the living water to all of those that they're going to go to. And Jesus, today, still looking for those who will take light and water to all the ones who are in a drought. Do you know how many people are in a drought in their lives? Their spirits are withered. They talked often on the news about the statistics of this last year and lockdown and how it's taken such a toll on people's mental health, and the just exponential rise in teenage suicides because of the lockdowns and can't be with their friends and they're stuck at home and they're just the isolation that eats away at the soul and at the mental aspects and the emotions. You can't tell me people aren't in a drought. From coast to coast, from border to border, people are in a drought wherever you're at. Their cisterns are low. And they need not another pep talk. They need water. Amen. They need light. Amen. But they don't have it. And you can't give what you don't have. What they need is somebody to bring it. They need somebody to take them to the pool. They need somebody to bring the pool of Siloam to them. And that's you and me. We. There's this lady at my work, her name's Shirley. And I remember when Shirley first came into our shop, I was working certain aircraft parts there, and she was the representative for that company on supplying us parts for them. And Shirley would come in, and every day she would come in. I didn't know who she was or anything, but I noticed her when the first day she came in. And she came in, and she always had a smile, and she was always so bubbly. Didn't matter what time of day it was, didn't matter whether it was a Monday or Friday, it didn't matter. If she was in the shop, she was bubbly, she was happy, she was joyous, she was all this. And I saw her about 2 times, and about the 3rd time she came in the shop, I walked with her back to where she places all the parts in the bins and all of that. I walked back there and I said, "What's your name?" And she told me her name, and I told her who I was. And I said, "Now, here's my second question. What church do you go to? Because I know you're a Christian." Have you ever met somebody like that? I just knew she was. And she told me what church she went to and how she came to Jesus and how he was her first love. And this beautiful testimony that just welled up in her. I'll never forget those words. He's my first love. It's no wonder every day she came in, she'd been drinking at the well already. She already had light, and she had enough to spare. To everybody that she came into contact with, she had enough water to spare. Why? She didn't have a cistern, she had a spring. She had enough to spare. To everybody that came through, but I've met some other ones that, quite frankly, I was surprised they went to church. I really was. You've probably met those too, haven't you? You've probably met some where you go, what? You go to church? I mean, unless it's some, don't even want to go there, but you've met those people. You're surprised because their life hadn't given any evidence that they'd been drinking anything other than bad lemon juice, right? I mean, that's all really. They're just in a bad mood all the time. They don't have anything good to say. And it doesn't seem like they're passing anything that I want to drink along. And nothing that I want to look at. No light there. And so my question as we close this is, whose works are you doing? You see, both those people are doing works. Jesus puts everybody in two families. You're either in God's family or you're in the devil's family. Both people have work to do. Both people are working, and they're working hard. And so whose work? You're doing somebody's works, aren't you? Tomorrow you'll be doing somebody's works. I'll be doing somebody's work. Tomorrow. I want to make sure I'm doing the one who sent Jesus. I want to be coupled with him. I want to be part of that we crowd with Jesus. The second thing is, how much water do you have to spare? Are you hooked in? Let me ask you this. Are you hooked into a spring or are you hooked into a cistern? Let me explain to you this way. That spring's never going to go dry. That spring, that's the thing about a spring. It's a natural spring. We were camping up this summer. My granddaughter got the biggest kick out of this because we're camping and I'm walking the dog. I walk the dog because I don't bring the cat. So I'm bringing the dog and I'm walking down this trail in the mountains. And it has not rained in a while, but I see a trickle of water. I see a little stream of water. But it's not up from the road. It's starting at the middle of the road. And I go, well, that's kind of odd. And so me and Gunnar, we walk over there, and sure enough, there's a spring that has come up in the middle of that dirt road in the middle of the mountain. And it's about that big around, but it's going to get bigger. You trust me, it's just flowing up. It's flowing up, and and you see it bubbling. There's a literal bubbling that goes with this spring, the pressure that's bringing that up. It's bubbling. We used to sing a song when I was a kid. It's bubbling, it's bubbling, it's bubbling in my soul. I went home that day and sung that to my wife in the RV. There, we got in the RV. I said, it's bubbling, it's bubbling, it's bubbling in my soul. I went down and saw that thing every day, and Gunnar and I went down there and just had our devotion time. Then I'd go back and pray with the wife. And it was a beautiful thing. Just how this thing starts, and it's just never going to end. I don't know what they're going to do with that road. I don't know, because that road's going to get a big hole in it pretty soon there. It's going to wear that thing away. So all those people that bought all those campers on that road there, they got some choices to make here pretty soon. But cistern will get dry. That's right. A cistern isn't like that. A cistern gets dry, and before it gets dry, it gets nasty. It gets stale. Nobody wants to drink out of a cistern when it's getting low. That's right. Nobody does. It's dirty, and it's nasty, and it's unappealing. How much living water do you have to spare? I want to be like Shirley. That's what I want to be like. Where I walk in the office, I just want people to know, what church do you go to? Because I know you're a Christian. What church do you go to? How much light are you giving? You see, Jesus, what an invitation to these disciples. We must work. And while I'm in the world, I'm the light. But I'm not going to be here forever. That's the implication. While I'm here. And then the ascension happens. And then the day of Pentecost happens. Amen. And all of a sudden, fresh water. Amen. On that day of Pentecost, a spring. A spring. Yes. In the upper room. Light. Amen. Tongues of fire. Amen. Light. And a spring. And it wells up in those 120. And what happens? Thousands Amen. Are saved. Amen. Thousands. And the church explodes as they take it around the world in their lifetime. In their lifetime. Why? Because they didn't have a cistern. They had a spring called the Holy Ghost. And they're willing to share it. And they're willing to partner with Jesus. We must work the works. Carry the light. Let's pray. Father, thank you for your word this evening. Thank you for the invitation to work with you. To do the works of him who sent you. Father, what an invitation that you recorded down for us. Each one of us are going to go home and we're going to wake up, God willing, tomorrow morning. And we're going to do something tomorrow. We're going to do something. I'm going to go to work. Some others are going to go to work. Some are doing this and doing that. But the one thing for sure is tomorrow there's work for the kingdom to be done. And we want to be about it. And the only way we're going to be effective in doing the work of the kingdom is to partner with you and to take water and to take light to those who don't have it. Would you help us? Would you help us do that? Would you show us? Would you just reveal the areas of our life that are really operating on a cistern, that are low, and just remind us there's a spring we can tap into. There's light we can tap into. We don't need to go into this world under our own power. You said we must work. We don't need to do it on our own. We do it with you and through you. And it changes people. Help us, we pray. Start around this altar as we open this altar up. And we'll thank you for it now in Christ's name. Amen. Amen. Come on and spend a few moments around this